pull up a seat. Anyway, I'm so excited. Today we're going to do a Q&A. I'm going to be answering some questions and getting to know each other a little bit. But hopefully also you'll get tons of encouragement and some wisdom, okay? By the way, my name is Sharina Chantel. For those of you who do not know me, welcome, welcome. We actually just hit 500 subscribers. That was in English. We've got some juicy questions, y'all. So the first question, what advice can you give a girl who struggles with purity? Whew, it's a big one. Okay, at base, you have to acknowledge that you are a sexual being, that God created you sexually as well as, spiritually, emotionally. Like, we are holistic, and sexuality is a part of the way we're wired and the way we're created. I think sometimes messaging around sexuality, there was a lot of, shame and fear-based messages in the past around that. So sometimes people don't want to even acknowledge the fact that they are sexual. So desiring to have sex, there's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame in that. It was God's idea. I say that over and over again because Trey Songz be telling people it was him and it was God. So I just want to encourage you that, desiring like sex, intimacy, that there's nothing inherently wrong with that at all. So let's make sure we're on the same page with that. Now, when it comes to, depending on the struggle, I would say invite God in it. Sometimes we want to compartmentalize our sexuality and, it's easy to trust God with everything else. But I would tell you, invite God into that. Invite God into those thoughts that come into your mind. Invite God into those desires, because there's nothing about you that's foreign to him. He made you. He will bring clarity. He will bring comfort. He will meet you in that place, And another thing too is, let's say you're, struggling with like porn addiction or something like that. I would say whatever's in dark grows. So like always shine light on your struggle. Make sure that you share it with someone, that you confess your sins, that, you don't try to navigate it alone. Because sometimes when we're isolated or we feel alone in it, then it has a chance to like grow or become a stronghold or try to grip us. Also, pay attention to what you are listening to, what you are watching. Trust me. Anyway, you reach a point where you're just like, okay, there's certain things or certain seasons that you're like, okay, I can't watch that or look at that, And it's like everything that you watch, everything you hear, everything you listen to, they plant seeds, There's certain songs I just can't listen to because it'll have me feeling some type of way. So just guard your heart. Take inventory of like what's coming in. So I hope that helps. Okay. Next question. What's your take on church and sex? Do we talk about sex enough? Are there some topics that are still taboo? So I kind of just touched on this. Hold on. I'm not even eating my popcorn. I mean, it's funny. I can't really speak for the whole church because, I'm not really in every church. Can you imagine? I like walk into a church, I'm like, y'all talk about sex around here? So my perspective definitely is limited. But I would say, from my perspective, that we are doing better about, talking about sex. You have Michael Todd's Relationship Goals series and Andy Stanley, The New Rules of Love, Sex, and Dating, which I always recommend to people. That was a pivotal sermon for me when I first gave my life to Christ. Also, I did a whole YouTube video on sex, celibacy, my journey with that. So I'll link it here for anyone who's interested to just delve in more. Okay. What is your next traveling destination after COVID or when the borders reopen? Listen, I definitely miss traveling a lot. I don't know if I shared this on YouTube, but last year it was my first time doing a Europe trip with some friends, and we got to go to Portugal, Ireland, Greece, and Italy. It was beautiful. I absolutely loved it. But as far as where I would go to next, I would love to go to Bali. I've also been missing Australia. As some of you guys know, I lived there for 3 years and I've been missing it. Now, I wouldn't move there again, Nothing wrong. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I might move to Australia. Who knows? I shouldn't say that. Honestly, all bets are off. What is one thing that kills marriages the most, according to you? Ooh, it could be so many things. You hear about like finances and all these different things, but I think it's expectations. I think people go into marriage with expectations of how it's going to be. We're fed oftentimes like so many narratives, so many fairy tales. So I think it's unmet expectations or unexpressed expectations. I don't know. I would just say that, but it could be so many reasons. I think sometimes people aren't honest with themselves. Like something, y'all, can I tell you something that freaks me out is like if someone wasn't honest with themselves, where it's like you're with someone because you're like, oh, well, she's a good girl, or it's a great Christian woman, I should do it or whatever. But it's like you're not really into it like that. Anyway, I can talk a lot about that, but I don't know if any of that made sense. Hopefully that made sense. What I'm saying is it's like not being honest with yourself. Like sometimes I hear people considering others, but they're doing it like you could hear in their voice that they feel like they're settling. And I feel like that's so dangerous because no one should feel, you shouldn't be with someone where you feel like you're settling. Because someone else would think that person is the bomb. But because you're trying to do the good thing, no one's happy. You're not happy because you feel like you're settling, and that person's not happy because they're with someone who feels like they're settling. Like no one wins, so don't do anyone any favors. Be honest with yourself, be honest with them. That's how I feel anyway. No one gets married thinking they're going to have a divorce. No one would get married, with the intentions to divorce. It's like everyone has good intentions. But like the quote says, just because you say I do doesn't mean you can. So, yeah, I think sometimes marriages fail because people didn't take the time to truly be single. Real talk. And then those single issues come up in marriages. And not to say that you only get married or you should only be with someone when you feel perfect or ready. Like we're always changing, always growing, always developing. But now is the time when we're single that we get to just become the best whole version of ourselves and not try to have someone complete you or fulfill you, but to be whole as a single person and have two whole people come together. I know that's what I'm waiting for. I know that's what I want. Yeah. Oh my gosh, okay, let me cover my sweat stain. How to be and stay consistent. Whew, that's good. Um, it depends on what you're referring to, but I would say it's knowing what your priorities are and then protecting them at all costs. But then, if you're talking in terms of business, something that's helped me is having systems in place. That way, you know, they're working whether you are or not, and they help keep you on track. There's systems you can put in place to keep you consistent. So, you can automate things, you can pre-schedule things. For example, posting on social media, you can pre-schedule that. I think it's just trying to take as much human error out of it as possible, and definitely systems is what keeps you consistent. If you're talking about, goals and your life, I talk about this a lot. I think it's having multiple check-ins with yourself. Sometimes the only check-ins we have are New Year's or, around our birthday, but we don't course correct. It's like if we don't do it perfectly, we quit. And that's like the pattern that's created. I know I was on that cycle, and that's why I created the life audit sheets, which I've already talked about. But in case you're new here, I created free life audit sheets, and I actually just recently updated them. So I'll put them in the description box below. But it's really just allowing you to break down your goals as well as assess every area of your life and to create a plan so you can get these goals and ideas out of your head and into your life. So if that's something you're interested in, be sure to download your version and your copy of the life audit sheets. All right, let's go for a juicy one. Ooh, okay. Ready? Hold on. I'm gonna need fuel for this question. What's the sexiest trait a man can have? Okay. The sexiest trait a man can have. I'm like smiling already thinking about it. No, but gosh, so many. I'm gonna just rapid fire them, okay? Let me just pull up my dating profile real quick. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay, so in my opinion, obviously a man that genuinely loves the Lord, like genuinely. That is very, very attractive to me. I know it's very spiritual, but is real. Like that is very attractive to me. So that aside, that aside, something else that's very attractive to me, kind of in line with that, but it's a man who is confident in who he is. Like he knows he's a beloved son of God. He has nothing to prove. It's like a quiet confidence, you know? Like he's secure in who he is as a man. I'm not saying he doesn't have insecurities. We all do. Another thing too that I find very attractive is a man who's intentional, a man who's honest. Like he's not trying to hide anything. He's just honest, you know? I feel like I'm gonna look back at this and be like, ooh, I wish I mentioned that. I wish I mentioned that. If anything else comes up to me after this video, I'm gonna just write them out here. I'm sure there's a lot, honestly. When it comes to zodiac signs and astrology, so this is interesting. Zodiac signs, before I became a follower of Jesus, I was, I wouldn't say I was deep into it, but I was definitely like the parts of it that I was curious about was how different signs um complemented each other. You know, if there was a guy I was interested, I was like, well, what's his sign and what does it say, you know, that sort of thing. But then when I came to know Jesus, I mean, what didn't change when I came to know Jesus? Like he opened up my mind and my life to so much. Like the spiritual realm was something that I was just so unaware of, and I that's why I want to be very careful and clear when I say this, that this spiritual realm is real, whether you believe it or not. So with astrology, with zodiac, that would all classify under divination. And that's something that, especially if you're a believer, it's something that we are to guard against and stay away from. Why stop at the stars when you can go to the creator and the maker of the stars? Often when it comes to zodiac, when it comes to astrology, at the root of it oftentimes is us wanting to feel in control, wanting to feel like we are, you know, masters of our own destiny, that we, you know, have some element of control. And it it's better instead that we trust and we put our hope in God, that we trust that he is the maker of the heavens and the earth and everything under the earth, and knowing that we don't need to know the future because we know who holds the future, and putting our trust in him rather than these other things. Another thing too is you have to understand there is so much power sometimes in belief, and just the fact that you've believed, accepted, and acted on something, it's like having faith, you know? There's certain laws and things that God put in place that work regardless. So you want to make sure that you're not putting your faith and acting out in faith based on what someone else said or a seed that was planted that didn't come from God, but you are acting out on faith from a wrong seed, you know? Just like how God has a plan for your life, so does Satan. So that's what I have to say on that. I would say just guard your heart, stray away from it. You don't need it. Trust your heavenly Father. Trust that he holds your life in his hands. Trust that he's got the best plan for your life, and it's the wildest, best adventure. Trust in God. And for anyone who might not know Jesus yet, like I don't want you to feel condemned when I say these words. It's just I didn't know either. I used to do it too, you know, but I'm wanting to bring, you know, awareness and truth, because a lot of it is deception. And you know, when it comes to the enemy, which is very real. I used to think when it came to the enemy, I pictured him like a little, cartoon character. But like for those who've been through warfare and, who had encounters, like y'all know what I'm talking about. Like it's so real. It's so real. The spiritual realm is so real. And the thing is, the enemy, and this is in the word, it says he masquerades as an angel of light, you know? And when it talks about the last days, it talks about how people will become lovers of themselves and prideful and boastful and pretty much thinking that they are God. So a lot of things are kind of in line and streaming and trying to get all of humanity to go in that direction. So you heard it here. I was going to say you heard it here first, but hopefully you've already heard that. And this is just confirmation. I think this will be the last one. What is one of your takeaways from this pandemic? Man, you know what's crazy? This is what's wild. It was around this time last year, so it was October 2019. So every year I just pray into the year. October, if you saw my last video, October is the month where I really set my goals for the next year. That way you're not starting it on New Year's Day when everyone else is starting, because so many people, you quit not too long after. So if you start in October, when you feel like quitting in December, there's already going to be that natural push from the world to like get on your goals. So you're like, okay, I can't give up now. Like there's all this momentum happening. So you get 3 months, then you get a kick to keep going. And then before you know it, you're already halfway through the year into your goals. And then at that point, you should be seeing results and you're like, I'm not going to give up now. I'm 6 months into this. And so it's like, that momentum. But how did I get here? Oh yeah. Okay. So this time last year was when I was praying into, 2020 and like my goals for 2020 and what God saw for the year. And I was asking God for the word for 2020. And the word I got for 2020 was surrender. How wild is that? Now, full disclosure, not claiming to be a prophet, did not see COVID coming. No, I didn't. I thought the word surrender, to be honest, I was like, well, first when I heard surrender, I was kind of like, what do you mean by that? But I thought it was more, me surrendering my plans to God, obviously like I've been single for a minute, so I thought it was also like, just trusting God with a timeline in my life. Like obviously I thought, by this point I'd be married and I'd already have, a baby on the way, that sort of thing. So I felt like it was just like, constantly surrendering those like desires and expectations to God. Like that was kind of my perspective on that. And yes, I'm sure that was included in it. And yes, I had a revelation about that this year as well. But then COVID happened and it just added a whole new layer of meaning to that word. And I was like, oh, I get it. And so that's what I would say. I really learned to surrender. And the thing is, it's really an illusion of control because we're not in control, I mean, we are in control of different things. We're in control of our reactions. We're in control of like how we use what God's given us. But there's so much that is out of our control. And the word talks about like everything that can be shaken will be, So I feel like something from this pandemic that I've really taken is like just trusting God, truly trusting him, because it's one thing to give lip service. It's another thing when it's tested. I'm learning more and more to like be grateful for the test, because the test isn't there to like wipe you out. The test isn't there to humiliate you. The test will make you stronger. The test will make you sharper. The test will reveal the impurities. It'll rise it up to the surface. It's like pressure. It's like tea. Well, let's go with, for gold, when you heat it up and all the impurities rise to the surface. If there's no heat, you don't know what's impure. You don't know what's under the surface. Sometimes we could deceive ourselves. We think we're cool, we're straight. And then, when pressure comes in, we get to really see what's in us, So a tea bag looks all cool and dandy, nothing spilling out, but you put the hot water and you see the contents, the aroma comes out from that heat. So I really am grateful because, the pandemic, like, it revealed different things. All right, well, that wraps up the Q&A. I'm so glad that you were a part of it. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Leave questions in the comments if I didn't answer it, or if you have a burning question that you want to get out to me. I'll definitely answer it in the comments. And I mean, if you want to be a part of this next time around, be sure to follow me on Instagram. Mwah. Love you, and I'll see you in the next video. More like Jesus. And did you hear that? What was that? Excuse me. Wow. Such a lady. Anyway, I was saying,